Today it's all about aluminium. We have a Mercedes E220 AMG line with a nasty bodyline dent. But stay tuned and I'll show you the complete repair from start to finish. Hi everyone, it's Jake here from First Track Dents and welcome back for another paintless dent removal video. So today we're working on the front wing of this Mercedes E220 AMG line. So it's not the biggest dent you've seen me do, but I can promise you I had a real tough time removing this dent, not only because it was on the sharp body line, but because this wing was made from aluminium, or as our American and Canadian friends like to call it, aluminum. Now in the midpoint of this video, I'll explain a little bit about the properties of aluminium and why it's used in the vehicle manufacturing industry. But for now, let's jump in to this repair. Okay, so first off, I knew this was most likely to be an aluminium panel as Mercedes used this lightweight metal alloy quite a lot on their exterior body panels. So the customer returned back to their vehicle to find a trolley up against their wing. It obviously made heavy contact with this panel and created this dent with an overall width of approximately 120 millimeters. And looking here from the overhead view, we can see that it's pushed in the profile line at the top edge at least 12 millimeters. Now this metal had to go somewhere, so it's pushed upwards and created this lump of what we like to call a crown, which branches off and extends up the panel. Now the last thing to mention is that on close inspection, I did notice these very minor scratches in the clear coat, which I will polish off at the end of the repair. But for now, let's remove the lower trim and get behind this panel. The stone guard is made from a very soft plastic, so to gain access you simply use your hand and pull it aside. So as this dent has bent the body line and formed this high ridge on top, I will be using a lot of heat to prevent the paint from cracking and to help the aluminium to move. So for most of this repair I will be using my Ultra Dent double bend tool, and I'm going to start with the large rubber tip. I'll link this tool in the description. So I'm just feeling out the tight areas here before I commit to using a lot of force. I then gradually start pushing out the deepest low areas of this dent. So when the body line is moved in like this, you really need three hands to work in unison, one to heat the panel, one to push the dent out and one to tap down the crown. So as I'm pushing this dent out, I'm holding the tension whilst tapping down some of this crown on top. This is a slow process as you want to try and bring out the body line and the dent cleanly. So I've done all I can with the large rubber tip. Now time to switch over to my standard rubber tip. With this tip I'm more focused on trying to bring out the bodyline profile. That's why I'm moving up and down the bodyline edge. I'm still using my hammer to tap the hard crown down whilst trying not to put any hammer marks into the metal, as that would give me more work at the end of the repair. Now because aluminium is a tough metal to move, it is inevitable that some pushes will leave very small high marks. This is where the nylon tap down is used to tap these areas down level again. So I'm happy that the profile line is almost level and straight. So now it's time to change position and attack this stubborn crown. I decided this position would give me the best view of this crown. So I'm using my tap down, which takes the screw on tips, and I'm using the rubber tip to try and push this crown back down level again. I'm gradually moving across it to try and bring it down evenly. On the really stubborn areas, I'm using my nylon tip as the rubber tip absorbs some of the impact, whereas the nylon tip doesn't. So I am making progress. The overall shape is pretty much there, but there is plenty of work that still needs to be done. Okay, so a bit more heat now, and I'm switching to my nylon tip to bring up some of the small indentations that are left on the panel. It still takes a lot of force to move this metal, even though the indentations that are left behind are very small. I'm still using the nylon tap down to remove any high areas left over from the crown removal. Now, it's very important to protect your hearing as much as you can in these repairs, especially when a lot of tapping down is required, like in this repair. I find aluminium has a certain acoustic quality that makes it louder as opposed to tapping down regular steel panels. I'm still using the nylon tap down to remove the last of the stubborn high areas on this crown. So when we talk about motor vehicles having exterior body panels made from aluminium, there's a huge misconception that dents in these panels should be very easy to push out because aluminium is very soft. Well, trust me, dents in these panels are not easy to push out. This is because they're not made from pure aluminium. Now, aluminium is one of the most abundant metallic elements found in the Earth's crust. Its atomic number is 13 and it's found on the periodic table here. In its purest form, aluminium would be way too soft to be used in the manufacture of motor vehicles. Now, one example of aluminium almost in its purest form would be in aluminium kitchen foil, although this does have an aluminium content of just over 99%. And I'm sure you wouldn't want to be driving around in the same stuff that you wrap your sandwiches in. So the material used in the manufacture of these vehicles is an aluminium alloy. So what does that mean? Well, it means it's a mixture of elements where aluminium is the predominant metal. So in the manufacture of vehicle body panels, aluminium is mixed with various other elements in order to get the right characteristics. For example, weight reduction, corrosion resistance, weldability, impact absorption, amongst many other factors. So there are huge weight savings when using aluminium as opposed to regular steel. Now, depending on the vehicle, some studies suggest that aluminium bodies are up to 30 to 50% lighter. Now that's the equivalent of 5 or more people. At the moment, aluminium is used more in the production of high-end luxury vehicles. But let's not completely write steel off because there are studies that show a big development in the use of advanced high-strength steels. Now these high-strength steels are being developed and engineered to be much stronger and much lighter. So I don't think that we will be seeing either of these metals taking over the entire market, either now or in the near future. I think because of the complex structure of motor vehicle bodies, they will always be a mix of different metals and plastics. So from my experience of dent removal, I find that steel requires a lot less effort and force to get it to move back into position, whereas aluminium requires probably twice the amount of force and twice the amount of effort just to get it to move. And the metal memory characteristics of both metals are completely different. So that was some basic facts on aluminium. Now, let's get back to the repair. Now the sun's just creeping up over the rooftop, making it very difficult to see, so I'm putting up the umbrella. I'm now switching to the finer tips to bring up some of the micro lows. Again, the use of heat is very important here when using these sharp tips, as we don't want to crack the paint. As you can see, the panel is completely back to its original shape, although if you look closely you can just see some of these micro lows in the surface of the paint. These have to be pushed up one by one. This is the part of the repair that takes the longest to do and requires the most patience. You have to push carefully when using the sharp tips, as if you push too hard you will make very sharp highs that may be too sharp to tap back down again and would show up in the paint surface at the end of the repair. Now here you can see the importance of cross-checking your repairs. You will notice that I don't stay in one position too long. I'm working the dent in horizontal and vertical positions either side of the dent to ensure the finished result looks good in all directions. Now I'm moving on to a super sharp tip to bring out some of the micro lows which are on the top section of the wheel arch where the crown was earlier. Most of the micro lows here are close to the edge profile of this panel. As you can see, some of these micro lows need pushing up quite far in order to get them to move, but the high areas are easily tapped back down again using my sharp nylon tap down. After this section is complete, it's time to remove the clear coat scratches that were spotted earlier. So after flattening out the scratches, I gave the panel a good mop over with some ultra fine polish to give the paint a rich deep gloss. So now it's time to check out the final result. As always, thanks for coming along this repair. I know this one probably didn't look super challenging to do, but trust me, this took a lot of time and effort to remove this one. Aluminium can be really difficult to work with. If you like the video, it'd be great to get a thumbs up, and if you aren't subscribed already, click that subscribe button and don't forget to click the notification bell to be kept in touch with all the latest videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.